Virgo, this is your tarot reading for November. Like everybody's this month, you're very much influenced by global events. And what's telling me that is you go to the bottom right, this is the past, but we have the World card there. A major cycle closing, a new one opening. And we're all aware that that has happened, I think, now, or almost all of us. I have to say to you that maybe there's been an indication with a few signs that another major cycle is coming to an end and another new one beginning. So these are very much global events that are affecting you. Right now, next card along, you're feeling very happy, very loving, feels like everything's going well for you. And in the future, you seem to have got a wonderful sense of direction. Know where you're going, know why you're going there, everything's aligned, and you're moving very quickly. The overall energy which runs through it all is the Queen of Wands. Now, she is a good queen, she's a great queen, she works with others, but she does have a tendency to use other people. And I've always been interpreting it as exactly that, around about this time of year. I don't know why, but it seems to be the right interpretation. And I hesitate to make it, but looking at the other cards, I think it is correct. Because you see, the energy that leads to the outcome is an energy of conflict. But it's a conflict that's easily avoidable if you were only to speak to everybody about what they wanted. And it seems to me this is exactly the type of conflict that the Queen of Wands would create. What would avoid the outcome is the Two of Pentacles, you struggling a little. That's interesting, isn't it? I don't quite get it. But if you were to struggle and... I see. So struggle and persevere with people that you don't always agree with, maybe. Yeah. Because the outcome, which comes from this conflict, is the Devil card. Unhealthy attachments. I could see conflict leading to the Devil. I don't know about you, for sure. You know, even attached to beating, to winning. You know, exactly the wrong sort of energy you should be displaying with this new cycle. Very interesting, Virgo. Stay with me and help me to interpret this. The energy that runs throughout is the Queen of Wands. And don't get me wrong, she's a nice queen. She's liked by everybody. She knows how to get the best out of people. But what's been cropping up the latter half of this year is that it mostly signifies somebody who uses others. And I think that's exactly what you're doing. And it's important because it's here in a central position, meaning that it runs throughout the entire reading, dominates the reading, if you like. And it's exactly the wrong thing that you should be doing, given that a cycle has closed out and a new one has begun. And the new cycle is the opposite of this. It's the opposite of this manipulation. And those people who have been manipulating in the last cycle will receive karmic judgment. Are you going to receive karmic judgment? There is one indication that that's possible here. There is indeed, yes. So, oh dear. Virgo, I mean, it's not terrible, but it does feel like you have to change your ways. It does feel that way. I wouldn't normally get so excited about the fact that you're using people. I mean, many people do. I mean, it characterized the last cycle, but that's the point. Because here we have the World card, which says that a major cycle ended and a new one's begun. And every indication of my reading is that the old cycle was characterized by manipulation, by personal greed, by lies, by subterfuge, by corruption, and all that has been swept aside. And that those who engaged in it in the last cycle are getting their karmic justice. And that there's every indication of that. So that's why I'm concerned, because we have the World card here, so it's confirming what I'm saying. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that I've got it right, but it's certainly confirming the energies that I'm feeling here. So that's why I'm getting so concerned about what may seem like a relatively normal activity. Something that you're probably quite used to, and abusing people and getting the best out of them are two sides of the same coin, really, aren't they? Now, I was describing how in this month quite a few zodiac signs will be punished for things that they didn't previously consider were wrong. And somebody said to me, well, that's not fair, is it? And I was trying to explain that it's not so much what they were doing when they didn't know it was wrong, but now that the paradigm has changed, they've had every opportunity to reflect and see what's wrong in their behaviour. So therefore, it's not so much what you did in the last paradigm, it's that you're continuing to do it now. Because I think, whatever you've done is not so bad, because you're actually being rewarded, karmically rewarded by the universe with happiness, with happy families, as it were, in this Ten of Cups. So lots of love, lots around you that's good. And to a certain degree, you might see this as being given an opportunity by God or Allah, by the universe. They're rewarding you, showing you the way that you should go. But you're not making these changes, I believe. And I think I've got this right, because in the future, you've got your ducks in a row, you've got an alignment, you're moving quickly. But are you moving quickly in the wrong direction? There's every indication that you are. I think what this is all about is that, a cycle has ended, a new one's begun, and you're not a bad person, and certainly under the last cycle you'd have been judged a very good person. But you're failing to grasp how you need to change. You're sort of almost carrying on as you were before, because you have a belief that you're a good person. And therefore, why do you need to change? But the universe, in these energies, is reminding us that we all need to examine ourselves, particularly in the light of the new paradigm, which is a paradigm of loving, of sharing, of mutual respect. Do you know, I've just said the word, haven't I? Mutual respect. Because if you're using others, it's not mutual respect, is it? No. And what leads to the outcome is the Five of Wands. The Five of Wands is an energy of conflict. So if I'm right that you've been somewhat using people, you can see how conflict would occur. Because of other people are going through these changes. You might want to use the word waking up. I don't like it, but going through these changes because of, as I say, a cycle has ended, a new one's begun, and people are waking up to the differences. And they're saying to themselves, hang on, I'm being used here. I'm not happy with this. And, it could easily be resolved by speaking to people about what their wants, what their desires are, how they feel, and how you could try and incorporate them in things. So there is a way through it. It probably is somewhat difficult. It's probably not something that you're used to, but this is probably a minor conflict. But it's capable of exploding into being something very big, and in fact I think it does explode into something very big. But I think that's largely due to your attitudes. I often look at leaders of countries, and so many seem to start off with wonderful intentions. But when things don't start going their way, they become more and more entrenched in illiberal and undemocratic responses, And the more that happens, the more it creates an us and them, until they actually hold their people, their very electorate, in contempt. And I think there's a huge danger of you falling into that type of trap. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy listening to others, trying to incorporate others, because they've got different views to you. How many times have we heard politicians, business people, politicians talking about their electorate, business people talking about their customers, teachers talking about their students, and describing them as stupid? And it's because the electorate, the customers, the students don't do what the politician, the business person, the teacher wanted or expected them to do. So it's difficult because it means refining your views as well. It means compromising on issues that you might feel strongly about. It means taking a middle ground, and it means that you'll be juggling, you'll be struggling. It's a behaviour you're going to have to learn, but it's a difficult behaviour to pick up. And I think it's because, although you're not a bad person at all, you do have quite firm views. And those views are not only what's good for you, but what's good for others. And therein lies the problem. And now we have the Devil card. So this is the outcome. Unhealthy attachments. Now, I'm not sure that I'm right in this line that I've taken, but you can see how you having very firm views about what is good for you but good for others, and this leads to conflict with others. And just like the politicians that I described that have good intentions, and then the electorate doesn't understand them, doesn't understand their good intentions, is questioning of their authority, questioning of their motives. And slowly but surely their sort of faith in the common person, faith in the electorate, turns to mistrust and hatred. Is that the process we're talking of here? Because I think it's a very compelling way of understanding these energies. But I might have got it wrong. I mean, it might be an addiction even, I don't think you're addicted to power, though. I don't think you are. I think you've just slipped into this us and them type of attitude, which is getting out of control, and it isn't in anyone's interest. We need clarification on this card, don't we? We need clarification on this Devil card, because if we understand this Devil card, then we can understand, I think, so much of this reading. First card we get is the Queen of Swords. Firm but fair. Somebody that sets boundaries. Is this about your failure to set boundaries, or is it that your boundaries are too strong? The next card of clarification is Six of Pentacles, card of charity. You're not sharing enough. You're not seeing the other's point of view well enough, I think. Not being charitable towards others. And the final card is the Three of Swords, broken-hearted. You feel let down. You feel let down. You feel betrayed. Yeah. We'll look at each individually. Yes. Coming back to this Queen of Swords, I mean, she's somebody that's firm but fair, but she does set boundaries. And it's this boundary thing that I think is important, and that is, you've taken things too personally. You've not put up boundaries for yourself. You've become too much involved in principles, in, I'm doing this for your sake type of thing. Why are you ungrateful? And you're getting too emotionally involved. Too emotionally involved in, if you just sat back and said, well, does it matter? If you're doing it for others and they don't appreciate it, then you have to ask, are you really doing it for them? You need to detach yourself more from this. Yeah, you're too emotionally involved. That's what this Devil is all about. And now we have the Six of Pentacles, which is the card of charity. And I'm going to illustrate this to you with an illustration from Indonesian politics, as it were. And I'm not saying you're a politician or involved in this, but it perhaps illustrates what I'm trying to say here, that the energies that are coming out. And that is, if you look at Indonesia, the infrastructure is woeful. 14th largest economy in the world, and the infrastructure is absolutely woeful. Now you could say, well, 19,000 islands, so therefore it's very difficult. Well, completely lends itself to maritime transport, doesn't it? So, it's still woeful. You look at Jakarta, we've only just, 4 years ago, got an MRT, only 40 years too late, and it's solving the problems of 30 years ago, not today's problems, So woefully inadequate infrastructure. Jokowi, I believe a very honest, a very principled president comes to power, looks at the woeful infrastructure and starts a massive investment programme in it. He's also been trying to drive out corruption, but of course, once you start a massive programme of public expenditure in a country that is noted as one of the most corrupt in the world, then corruption goes up because there's more money floating around. And what's more, if you look at the Indonesian economy, and maybe all economies are like this, but Indonesia is worse, but there are, in every value chain, there's a monopolistic position, which means that anything you do in Indonesia, particularly development-wise, will actually have the obverse effect. So all it will do is redistribute money from the poor to the rich. So therefore, what seems like a wonderful programme, most economists would agree with Jokowi, he's doing the right thing. it's having exactly the adverse effect. And there are a few people, like myself, who are critical of it. And it must be very annoying, if you're Jacoby, to find out people are criticising what almost everybody would agree is the right thing to do, except if you understand the Indonesian economy. And if you understand the Indonesian economy has these imperfections, which mean that the rich, whatever you do, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and also the imperfection that there still is a lot of corruption around, that the more public expenditure you make, the worse you make things. And I think you're in a little trap like that, and you need to be a little more charitable towards the views of others. Put yourself in the shoes of the poor or the people who disagree with you and try and see it from their side, because chances are they're not as stupid as you think they are. And yeah, going back to that original card, me saying you're not putting up barriers, you've invested too much emotionally in this. And it's breaking your heart. This conflict is breaking your heart. Because you know you're right. You know you're right, but that's the problem. That's the problem. Because maybe you're not right. Maybe like Jacoby, you've missed something that not many people would spot. And yeah, it's broken your heart, this conflict. It's broken your heart. And it is because you've invested so much in it, and you've actually invested in the wrong thing. You're going down, you're using people instead of listening to them, instead of incorporating them. And the changes to the world want you to incorporate people. Now, I started and managed, I was managing director of 3 IT companies. But not so much that when I did that, as I was also a chairman of it was a public company, but it was sort of a not-for-profit company with 104 shareholders that I was answering to. And you know, I started off wanting to incorporate everyone, be very democratic, and I just got tied up in knots, and I became more and more autocratic, the exact opposite of what I wanted, and it depressed me, and I resigned. And I think you're in that sort of a situation. Virgo, what a fascinating spread. The world has changed. The cycle has ended and a new one begun, and you haven't quite caught up with the changes you need to make. And I think you're a very good person, and the universe is rewarding you for how you had been in the last cycle. It's also punishing those who done wrong, and it's rewarding you with happiness, you know, but you haven't made the necessary adjustments for the new cycle. You're a little bit over firm in your ideas. In fact, you're involved in something. It could be public office. It could simply be within the family, or maybe at work or something like that. But you're involved in something, and you're actually, you're very good with people, and people follow you and people like you, but you are prone to using people. And a conflict emerges over something that you know you're right on, and you know that you're doing it for the benefit of the very people who are criticising you. And it's going to send you crazy. It's going to send you crazy because of they won't listen to you. They don't see it your way. You're doing it for their benefit, and they won't listen. They're stupid, you know. And it's going to break your heart ultimately. If you carry on in this way, it's going to break your heart. You need to step back a little. You need to turn round and say, Don't get too emotionally involved in this, even though it's admirable that you do. But don't get too emotionally involved. Be more charitable to others, because of, even though you cannot for 1 minute see that their opinion is valid, you have to try and see what their opinion is. And believe me, it's going to be a struggle if you want to continue with whatever it is that's causing this conflict. It's going to be a hell of a struggle for you, because you have such firm views. And as I say, I think you're a good person. I think you're doing it for entirely good reasons. But it's leading to conflict, and that should tell you, back off. Back off. Stop using people. Start incorporating people. Start listening to others. And I know you're doing it for the best of intentions. You really are. But it's got you into trouble, and it's gonna make you ill. The worry about it's gonna make you ill. Take heed, Virgo.